Maybe the biggest complaint about FGO right now is that the game feels very out of date in comparison with many of the newer gacha games that have arrived on the market, and this is to be expected. In about a month we will see FGO JP's 9th anniversary. It has been almost a decade since this game's inception, and a lot has changed in that time. Games like Blue Archive, Nikkei, and Arknights are setting quality standards in their games that most newer gachas have to compete with in order to even make a splash on the market. To the credit of FGO, they do add quality of life updates that are player requested, but very slowly. However, with the anniversary just on the horizon, we are guaranteed to get some new quality of life updates. So buckle up and start huffing your hopium with me, because we're going to be going into some of the possible changes to FGO's quality of life that we may see with the 9th anniversary. Let's start with one that has been addressed by the developers in the past: bond CEs. Raising a servant to bond 10 for the average player is not an easy task. It requires you to constantly be bringing that servant along, backline or otherwise, for a ton of content. The rate at which you acquire bond is slow, and while there are CEs that help you with the acquisition of bond, it still takes forever and longer unless you are hardcore dedicated. For reference, I almost exclusively buster farm at events on JP because of how farming nodes tend to be, and my Koyanskaya Light has not reached bond 10. And then, after you've spent all of this time with this servant that you very clearly like, they hit bond 10 and present to you a personalized craft essence that is usually rich in lore and history, and completely useless because the effect is outmatched by even some 3-star CEs. At present, I would say about 90% of bond CEs are completely useless. The vast majority of them have effects along the lines of increase party's insert card color by 15%. Now, having that passive 15% can be meaningful in some cases, but more often than not, just bringing a CE that already does that and has a 50% battery is just better. And then there's the other 10% that are not completely useless. The Herc, Kualter, Tyra, and Bargus CEs come to mind. The effect on all of these CEs is significant enough to make them worth running, but then the CEs themselves give a flat 100 bonus attack and defense. For reference, a level 100 5-star CE usually gives 2,000 stat points to the unit holding it, either in attack, HP, or split between both. So you're shooting yourself in the foot for stats by bringing a bond CE. In an interview, Kano, a project manager for FGO, was asked about bond CEs in an interview about a year ago, and in it he addresses the fact that bond CEs are kind of bad. He mentions that down the line they are planning on implementing changes to bond CEs and keeps hinting at the fact that having a lot of servants at bond 10 will soon be very helpful. He doesn't offer any details outside of addressing the fact that they are working on something for it. Now, there are a lot of ways to make bond CEs better. Let's start with the one idea I have had on how to fix them without changing any of the text on any of the cards. Make them not CEs, but an equipable additional passive. I think that the biggest problem with bond CEs comes from the fact that they are craft essences. As time has gone on, FGO has implemented card-specific passives in command codes and card-specific attack buffs with faux pas. So the idea that they could convert bond CEs to something entirely different that can be equipped or removed at will is not outside of the realm of reason. This would make pretty much every bond CE useful with the exception of very, very few that have demerits. Additionally, this slot could also be occupied by lower rarity bonus effects that can be obtained either from the gacha or as event rewards. Alternatively, another easy fix for a lot of these would be to make their gained attack and HP 2000, or the standard 5-star equivalent. Realistically, this should just be the case by default rather than the non-existent 100s. While it doesn't necessarily fix the problem of the effects being weak, those stats make them a much more viable option. Another way to make them more viable is to add a secondary effect to bond CEs like Guts, Heal, or Damage Cut. The idea behind these CEs is that you have spent a considerable amount of time with the servant, and so they are more likely to want you to not die. Having an effect that keeps them in the fight longer to make sure that you stay safe would make sense from a lore perspective. Obviously, this would be a ton of work and require planning because some servants, like George, already have a bond CE perfectly tailored to their playstyle. Let me know what you think. The next one I'm going to keep brief because of anything else on this list, this one is going to be the most improbable. Pity changes. At present, it costs approximately 450 United States dollars to hit Pity in FGO, or 900 Saint Quartz, aka 330 pulls of the one-armed bandit. Pity is triggered when you have rolled 329 times and not received the 5-star on raid up. On the 330th pull, you are guaranteed that raid up servant. In other words, for a little less than $500, you can get one 5-star unit guaranteed. When you word it like that, it really makes it seem bad. Well, that's because it is. FGO's pity system is arguably one of the worst in any gacha game, because it's combined with an incredibly low rate up of 0.7% for a rate up 5-star, and a 1.5% for a rate up 4-star. Further, that 5-star has an 80% chance to be the rate up one, and a 20% chance to be a different 5-star that's just in the standard gacha. For 4 stars, I couldn't find a consensus, but most people are saying it's 50-50. In other words, the likelihood of you even getting a 5-star is already incredibly low, and then you have to hit that 80% chance to get the rate up one, and as someone who has seen how the 80% crit calculator works in this game, that is not a high number. This isn't even getting into the fact that 4 stars have no pity, and as someone who usually likes the 4-star units more than the 5-star ones, I die a little bit inside. So, if they were to change this, how could they? Well, maybe the best way to go about it is to have a carryover pity system. I don't see them ever reducing the amount required to hit pity, but I do think that having that process carry over would make it significantly better. Adding pity for 4 stars would be great, increasing the amount of guaranteed golds in a roll from 1 to 2 could be great, guaranteeing a gold servant once every 100 rolls would honestly be fine. Unfortunately, this is the part of the game I don't see them ever really changing because of the parent company knowing full well that that would put a dent in their profits. But one thing that they should add that I cannot believe they haven't already is a counter for how many times you have rolled on a banner and how close you are to pity. At present, there is a menu that you can pull up that you have to individually count every single time you have rolled on a banner, so that if it was there but it's a massive pain in the ass to get through, it cannot be that hard to consolidate all of that into numbers. That one I feel like a lot of people would appreciate. Let's look a bit more towards the possible. The coin system. This is maybe the most hated change by people that FGO ever implemented. Not because of what coins do, but rather how you have to get them. I think a lot of people like what the coins are capable of bringing, being able to upgrade your favorite servants further, such as unlocking appends or taking them to 120, but the primary way that you get coins for the majority of servants is by rolling for them in the gacha. To not mince any words, this sucks. So here's an example. At present, I have only 3 servants that I have or am currently taking to 120. Barghest, Ushiwaka, and Eric Bloodaxe. Of these, Barghest was the easiest. She's a limited rate up 4-star, which means that every time you summon a copy, you get 50 coins. To get a servant from 100 to 120, you need 300 coins, or 30 coins and 10 grail. In other words, you need 5 copies of Barghest. Again, no pity on 4-stars, so that was awful. To do her appends, you need 360 coins, or 120 for each append. Meaning, you need to roll 7 more copies if you want to unlock all of her appends, as well as 120 her. That is assuming that you never bond and get the 15 coins from doing that. But because she was a limited 4-star, her coin rate wasn't terrible. Then there's Ushi. Ushi is a 3-star, meaning that she gets 15 coins per time that you summon her. Given that she is low rarity, she will show up more often if you roll more, but is also able to avoid you outright because of the nature of the gacha. Getting her coins took longer because of the unpredictable nature of the gacha for 3 stars. Finally, there is Eric. Eric is a 2-star in the FP gacha. Drop rates in the FP gacha are absolutely atrocious. I bought my FP stipend of 100,000 FP for 5 rare prisms at the start of the month. Rolled it all and received 2, count them, 2 copies of Eric. He drops 6 coins whenever he is summoned, meaning that you need to summon 50 copies of Eric to bring him to 120, and a further 60 for his append. I'm sure someone is thinking to themselves that it can't be that hard, but I promise you, and anyone who has tried the 120 any 2-star will agree, that drop rates are terrible. Like, actually terrible. FGO has been trying to patch and fix this system since it was implemented, either by adding more ways to get coins to having uses for coins that you will never use. An easy solution that would be universally loved is the implementation of blank coins, a universal coin that is given out during events or maybe even as a login reward. This would make it so that servants who have almost no rate ups ever can still make use of the coin system, or players who can't afford to be whales can level their favorite servants. It would allow for people who like low rarity units to not have to waste all of their FP and still wind up with nothing. It patches a massive issue with the coin system and would make it more accessible to everyone. I could actually very much see this implemented alongside a level cap raise from 120 to 130, as the grinds for coins would have been reduced significantly. Alright, let's rapid fire some small changes that people would like. Starting off, there is a jukebox function in the My Room part of the game that allows you to listen to various tracks from FGO. These cost mana prisms to open and cannot be used outside of the My Room area. Just allow this to be a global feature, so that if you are someone who enjoys FGO's music, you can listen to your favorite tracks as you farm. Adding a reset function as a permanent feature. During the fight against the CEO of Water, you can reset the fight to the very beginning so that you don't have to keep jumping through all of the menus to get back into the action. Making this a permanent feature would be amazing for people who enjoy challenging content. Add more slots for extra units. Holy hell, we have so many extra servants that it is kind of wild that we are still limited to just one. As of the recording of this video, we have 77 extra class servants. That is about 20 more than the average of any singular class in FGO. Just let me rep my 100 Himiko and go on support, please. I have every foreigner in the game on NA and I want the world to know, so please. Finally, add a way to revisit the story and events. Nikke has a phenomenal feature in it where you can get an item that lets you unlock the stories of previously played or possibly missed content. So for example, if you missed an event that was very lore heavy and relevant to the main story, you can go and read through it, that way you're not left out of the loop. Alternatively, you could be like me and have played FGO for 6 years. Sometimes I want to go back and reread the story without having to watch a 5-hour-long YouTube video or starting a new FGO account. It's kind of unbelievable that a game that is narrative-driven, presented in the style of a visual novel, does not have a way to revisit this. You don't even have to come up with a name for it because FGO mentions this exact feature, the Chaldea database, all the time. They mention it with servants seeing what their other selves did and using it to review future possibilities. Like, it's there, it's in the game, and Da Vinci's just not letting us in. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. If one or any of these get implemented, I'll be more than happy. But what do you think? What changes would you like to see made to FGO from a quality of life standpoint? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, why not subscribe? Check out my links in the description for my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter. But for now, guys, keep your chin up. Peace.